How did we get here? And how do we get out? Well, we have to start listening to warnings. We've been warned before, but we didn't listen. Former Secretary of Agriculture in the 1960s, Ezra Taft Benson, warned about what was coming in a 1966 speech. He talked about a meeting that he had had with Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev. Listen.
As we talked face to face, he indicated that my grandchildren would live under communism. After assuring him that I expected to do all in my power to assure that his and all other grandchildren will live under freedom, he arrogantly declared in substance, "You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright. But we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you finally wake up and find you already have communism. We won't have to fight you. We'll so weaken your economy until you fall like overripe fruit into our hands."
I had dinner about 6-8 months ago with Mike Benson, that man's grandson. It is possible. It is possible. This man knew firsthand what was happening. And documents now show that FDR had used the Department of Agriculture as his own communist recruiting station. Documents. Henry Wallace was the secretary. This man, he was a progressive. He was supported by the Communist Party USA. He never denounced any communist support he ever received. Why would he? FDR and Wallace decided they needed to help the poor farmers who were in dire financial crisis. Their idea, well, it usually goes this way with communists, artificially raise prices. They ended up slaughtering 6 million pigs. They plowed up cotton fields and destroyed crops all over the country. This all in the middle of the worst depression we had ever had. Is it any wonder why socialism and communism ends up with people starving to death? Oh, by the way, in an unrelated note, Hugo Chavez is seizing control of the food now in Venezuela. There are now 80,000 tons of rotting food in warehouses. But pay no attention to that, because communism is cool. Have you seen my new Perth? This is why we need to know history, or else we're doomed to repeat it. So tonight I want to show you a little bit of our history. I want to show you this timeline here. This is just a scratching of the surface of what has happened in our own country with communism. First, we have to start in 1848 with Marx and Engels when they come up with the idea of Marxism. Oh, it's a great idea. It leads to the Marxist International Working Men's Association. This happened in London. In 1871, the Paris Commune, there was a riot, a Marxist riot. Ended up with 30,000 people dead. In 1870, of course, the people in California say, we got to have one of them working unions for us. And so we went on. We talked a little bit about what happened last night in this area, but I want to bring you up to here. Our beloved Woodrow Wilson, that most children, and probably you until you started watching the show, knew nothing about this evil SOB. Sorry. I hate that guy. Russian Revolution in 1917. Here we have the beginnings of the Communist Working Party, Workers' Parties of America, Workers of the World Unite. Look for that slogan. It's everywhere now. In fact, Andy Stern's favorite slogan, Workers of the World Unite. What do you think he's talking about? Is it a coincidence? 1929, they changed their name to the Communist Party USA, which it is today. Now here's where we get interesting. In 1935, the communists joined the Union movement. They'd all been about the workers, but this is when they really started to infiltrate. They started to go in because of FDR. I'm going to just show you a couple of highlights. We'll go over more of these later. Remember this name, Martin Dees. Remember that name. Here you have the KGB compiling the Venona Papers. Venona Papers, this was a translation of what was really going on. This was a secret spying. What was happening? KGB compiled this between 1943 and 1948. Here you see Stalin with Churchill and FDR. This is an interesting time. This is during the McCarthy era from 1950 to 1960. Mao died. Mao takes power. Stalin dies. And this man, Penn. is blacklisted. 1953, Penn, Hollywood Penn. Oh, I know his son, way down over here, Sean Penn. Interesting. We'll get back down there in just a second. Now you have the discrediting of Joseph McCarthy. The question is, was Joseph McCarthy right? Was he right? You'll probably begin to decide that by the end of the war. Here you have, or the end of the show, here you have the Vietnam era now. You have Obama's parents meeting. Now remember, he was a communist. She was a communist. She went to the Little Red School, the Little Red Schoolhouse. Her parents went to the Little Red Church. But remember the time period that we're talking about. We're talking at the height of the Cold War. That's when William Ayres is into Marxism. That's when all of the people who are ruling now are into Marxism. Marxism wasn't cool then. Marxism isn't like it is now. If you were a Marxist then, you were a Soviet sympathizer. You were a traitor to our country. You've got to put that into perspective. It's not the same then as it is now. Here is Barack Obama's mentor, Frank Marshall Davis. He has an FBI file on his communist activities. We have the Venona papers were released in the 1980s. What did these say? In 1995 this was released. What did these papers say? Well, remember, the KGB was compiling here. They say that everything that basically this man said was right. They were happening. They were communist everywhere. And they affected everything. I'm sorry, they didn't affect. They infected absolutely everything. Here in 2000, we have Giselle with her underpants and her swimsuit of Che. We have this Marxist. Here is a very important time. Here's Michael Moore coming into the party, into the Democratic Party, sitting in the presidential box in 2004 with Jimmy Carter. That is critical that you remember that. The infiltration, the final step, come out on the stage and sit next to the president. And of course we have these clowns here. There's a ton that you need to know. That's how we got here. But is it who we are? Is this who we want to be? Will we even recognize that these people had an influence on it? What these people wanted to do is not a joke. Have they failed? I want you to be the judge. I want you to look at something. These are the 1963 communist goals. Okay? In 1963, I want to give you just a few of them. You tell me if they've failed. Communist goals of 1963 from the Communist Party USA, just a few of them. Develop the illusion that disarmament of the U.S. would be a demonstration of moral strength. Isn't that what we're doing right now with our nuclear weapons? Number 15, capture one or both of the political parties. Isn't that what Michael Moore did in the presidential box? Get control of the schools and use them as transition belts for socialism and communist propaganda. Number 18, gain control of all student newspapers. 19, use student riots to foment public protest against programs which are under communist attack. Have you been watching this show? Number 20, infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments. You should see the reviews on my books. Editorial writing, policy-making decisions. 21, gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and movies. 27, infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. 1963 communist goals. Revealed religion replaced with social religion. 28, no prayer in schools because it violates separation of church and state. Do you know that in New Haven, they just took out in their diplomas the year of our Lord? They just did it because it's offensive. 29, discredit the Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. That's about to happen, that last part. Number 30, discredit the American founding fathers. Please, what are we doing on this show? Trying to restore them. 36, infiltrate and gain control of more unions. 37, infiltrate and gain control of big businesses. What do you think the Tides Foundation is? Number 40, discredit the family as an institution, encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Let me ask you a question. These are the goals from 1963. This is 1791. Which one? Which one, America? It's a charter of negative liberty, says our president. Which one? You must choose.